Welcome back to the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by A.G. Hines Company. This is the 20th year of the Sports Source, and we're going to build a brand new set this year. And where I'm going to turn for my building materials, we'll take a guess. I'm going to A.G. Hines Company. They have the best selection, best pricing on building materials and tools in East Tennessee. They can walk you through any project. I mean, you're not going to just get, here's the box, now go home and get out of our shop. This is not one of the big box stores. This is a family-owned business. They care about your project as much as you do. They take care of you. That's been true for more than a century. A.G. Hines Company. Visit them, aghines.com, or go downtown Knoxville, A.G. Hines Company on Hines Street, of course. A.G. Hines Company. All right, let's take a look at what I mentioned as we were going to break. Rick Barnes spoke to the Tip-Off Club this week, and this is the quote as laid out from GoVols247.com. He said, the first thing I said to them, meaning the team, was we've lost 4 games, now 5. 4 games to top 25 teams, now 5 to top 25 teams. One of them being Texas Tech, who has had a great week, beating Baylor on Tuesday. We haven't been able to get our offense clicking consistently the way we want to. I told them we got 2 freshman point guards that have been put through the fire. I told them also we could probably be 12-2. We didn't have to play Arizona, which we won that game. We didn't have to go to Colorado, which we won that game. Certainly didn't have to play in a tournament with Villanova. Didn't have to play Texas Tech in New York. But we said we did that to get us ready for what we're getting ready to go through right now. I said we learned from all those games, which we will win or lose with all of them. We start out in SEC play and go well now. Our first 3 road games are 3 games against opponents picked in the top 4 in the league. I said that's why we played that schedule, try to get us to the point where we can handle what may come at us, especially with our freshman point guards. I don't think there's anything incorrect or misleading about that comment. That's exactly true. However, I don't know that it's 100% applicable. It can be true, but it doesn't capture the whole issue. My question is, are we looking at this team and saying, oh, they should be better than 11-5, not taking into consideration it's 5 losses to top 25 teams. Some of these teams that have better records right now that I wish we were them, they didn't play anything close to this schedule. That's part of it. Or do we look at it and say, no post presence, your outside shooting isn't great, you don't get to the free throw line a ton, you got some fatal flaws there that I don't know that you can overcome. Are we looking at this team and grading them too harshly because we aren't taking into consideration their schedule? Or is this just a team that's got flaws they can't recover from? And we'll work down this way back toward Mark.
I think it's just a team that can't overcome some offensive shortcomings, and I think your coach puts way too much emphasis on defense. And you get into games, the Texas Tech game. You know, Jay Billis had his man crush on Oscar yesterday, and he got his ice cream. But he pointed out the Texas Tech game, Tennessee, both teams shot the ball so bad they had to repaint the rims. You go to Alabama, you fall apart in the final 5 minutes. You go to LSU, you get blown out. I mean, it's how you're losing. You go to Kentucky, you get blown out. It's a tough schedule, but a lot of teams have tough schedules.
In terms of the man, I heard a lot of that yesterday. Oh, Bills is loving them. Now you know how other teams must feel when they hear announcers gush about John Fulkerson.
Yes.
Fulky. I no offense, I just hear too much of the man crush. Sometimes we don't hear what they do to the UT's team. Go ahead, Vince.
Well, what does it say about Kentucky that they did what they did to Tennessee without Shibwe being incredible on the boards and with scoring? And look, he impacted that game too because Tennessee, like Mark was talking about, on drives, Tennessee wouldn't leave him. So they allowed that straight drive to the basket. So that's how a post player that Tennessee is lacking that's effective can impact a game still. The schedule can help you long term, but I don't think it's a reason for their struggles because Tennessee has struggled and not played well even in the SEC games that they've won. They've been ugly wins as well. So I'm not buying that the schedule is the reason they haven't played well because it's about how they're playing, not having an athletic, bouncy post. And then the point guard play, I think they're a little bit small on the perimeter as well. So there's a lot of issues with this team.
Josh, if what he says is true, then it stands to reason as the schedule gets easier on the back half, you should see Tennessee go on a real hot run here. Do you think this is the team that can do that? Or do you look at it and say, no, all those flaws we've been talking about, that's going to prevent you. You're still going to have those flaws. It's not the good teams showing those flaws. You just have those flaws. Where are you?
Yeah, I think to this point what's happened is that the schedule early in SEC play has shown the flaws, especially the Kentucky game. LSU as well. I mean, from LSU to Kentucky Saturday to Saturday, part of the issue coming out of it was man, they look longer, more athletic, tougher. That's a word that's come up as well. That's part of the conversation coming out. I agree with everything Rick Barnes said at the beginning of the season. I thought, hey, this non-conference schedule really helped them at the end of the year with your resume, strength of schedule, and getting ready for SEC teams that are really good. But that doesn't appear to have played out on the court. They don't look more ready than they did earlier in the season. They have played poorly in these games. Now, Brandon Huntley-Hatfield, if he does get more of an opportunity and he does improve, then maybe this conversation changes. But I think that has to happen for it to change.
Mark, does this team have the wherewithal to make some big U-turn?
I don't think so. I think they are who they are in a lot of ways because a couple things. One, I have no problem with it being your identity being defense and all the emphasis on defense. No issue with it. The issue for me is I don't think we have an identity on offense. Like what is our identity? What do we run? How do we go against zone versus man? And toughness. You talk about all the other aspects of a team, and we try to get shooters in, and Justin Powell needs to play more, Brandon Huntley-Hatfield. The reality is a lot of teams are just beating us with toughness. They're just more physical than we are, and that toughness then carries over into leadership. Barnes says in the postgame yesterday, who are the two guys that kind of have the ear of the team? And the first two guys he mentions is Uros and Meshack. Yeah. Great for those two guys, but I've not been around many successful programs that guys that play less than 12 minutes are the leaders in the locker room. It's hard if a guy's not producing a bunch on the floor for him to be able to lead the locker room and grab them by the collar and say, hey, guys, we need to turn this around. Like, we ain't doing the things the right way. It's hard if it's one of those guys. Maybe it can happen, but it needs to be Kennedy Chandler. I don't care if you're a freshman. Like, you got the most pizzazz to your game, the best skill set, or Josiah George-James. Fulkerson that's been here 6 years. Any of the other guys. But the fact that it's Uros and Meshack, that gives me moment of pause of how much can we turn it around, especially because of lack of toughness.
And that's been a multi-year problem in Tennessee. They really haven't had a dog accountability guy since Schofield and Williams.
Which gets to the last point I was going to make. Since Schofield and Williams left, they've now played 40 games without those two in SEC play. They're 21-19. Which speaks to, and I think they thought that, 2 years ago, you thought you were going to have that guy in Fulkerson. You thought he was going to be kind of the glue guy in the center that was your leader, and then it just never came back. It never developed, and it can be COVID-related or whatever related, but it just hasn't been what people assumed. Oh, he's going to be the next guy who steps in like Schofield and Williams, who gets a little better every year and develops, and by the end we're going to – and it's like that didn't happen.
And I think Josiah Jordan-James has the personality to do that. I just think he hasn't played as well offensively, and that may, because lack of confidence or whatever, he may be a little bit more hesitant to call other guys out when he's had some.
But he seems like he's getting his shot back a little bit, I think. It doesn't look like he's pushing it as much. It looks like he's actually shooting it, and maybe he is more confident, but they're going in. He's not shooting like 20% or whatever it is on threes.
The only thing I'd say is, are we being too hard on them because of a top schedule that they're playing against? I mean, you look at John Fulkerson, an All-SEC player that's been here 6 years, 5-star Kennedy Chandler, 5-star Josiah James, Victor Bailey, who's going to be a 1,000-point college scorer by the time he's all said and done, Olivier, who Barnes has talked about could be like Grant Williams, Justin Powell, who shot 40% and above in the SEC last year. You got all these talented guys. The pieces are there, but the whole is not playing better than the individual pieces. And so I think is like, based off of our roster, we should be winning against some of these other top 25 teams, and even the games that we're losing, looking better than we're playing. And there's some sort of disconnect there for some reason.
All right, very good. When we come back, let's talk about the players. We're going to do this midway through each month, so we'll do another one in 4 weeks. We did one 4 weeks ago. Let's take a look player by player at the guys who are getting the most minutes, and we'll just throw out a name and see what the reaction is to their recent performance. We've still got football to come on the show, so stick with us here on the Sports Source.